possibly debris aloft within that storm, up at 20,000 feet or more. So this is a big one.
It's right on Dawson Springs. Right on Dawson Springs.
Now is the time. It's too late. If you haven't gotten to shelter, a better place for shelter than just wherever you are. Get away from windows, wrap in blankets, bicycle helmet on, whatever you have to do. And as Byron has been emphasizing over and over, Dawson Springs, you've got to be locked down right now. If you are not in a safe place right now in Dawson.
In rural Western Kentucky, there are very close-knit communities. It's all about family, friends, and being there for each other. Late last night in Bremen, it was never more evident. Proud town of around 400 in northern Muhlenberg County was devastated by what was believed to be a mile-wide, long-track tornado, so people from the area came together at the height of the tragedy.
I actually live right down here, and I just sold my house, and we heard they needed help out here, so we thought we'd come do what we could do. It's just a big mess out here. There's really not much you can do.
Take care of the injured, while at the same time standing vigil over the body of another neighbor who was killed until medical officials could arrive. All over town there were overturned vehicles, massive uprooted trees, destroyed homes, garages, and trailers. The damage was so bad that unless you were from Bremen, you wouldn't have known which house went where.
It's total destruction. I had a house on fire. It's just a bad mess. I just hope everybody's all right. They can figure out, find everybody that's missing or is hurt.
A bunch of debris all over the roads, trees down everywhere. It's pretty bad out here. That's terrible. It's sad. I feel sorry for the people that get affected.
It was a Friday, wasn't it?
Dylan Goff and Axton
It was a Friday. Friday.
It was a Saturday morning.
recovery process, so they jumped into action. In the process, they came across some good news: a sweet dog who survived the storm.
I actually got a dog. It was actually in good shape. Everything seemed like she was fine. It was just sort of shook up and scared.
Hopefully we can get it and get it safe back to its home, to its owner.
Jesse Johnson was at the center of a tornado that ripped through Earlington Friday night.
They say it sounds like a train. It's a lot worse than a train.
The storm tore his father's neighborhood just off of Hopkinsville Road to shreds.
We have multiple houses damaged in this particular area. We have a train derailment that appears to be as a result of the tornado. Me and my wife were in the hallway underneath the mattress, and then my mom and dad and my niece and nephew and her boyfriend was under the kitchen table.
As the winds roared, those under the table found themselves struck with bits of broken glass and debris as the front of the house was torn away.
I know I grabbed my husband's hand and I told him I loved him and I started praying.
It got real quiet after, and I told everybody just wait because it might not be over. So we waited a few minutes and we came out.
The Johnsons say they're not sure what they'll do next. They're just glad they can still do it together.
Brady Williams reporting.
Sirens filled a dark night in Bremen.
You know what, James?
Lightning, and that was at 10 o'clock. Things changed. We were anticipating the storm coming in, and at 10 o'clock, the energy kind of in the newsroom began to shift. It went from we're watching a storm like a news event to kind of this nervous energy because this thing wasn't letting up. We have sister stations in Arkansas and also
Yes, it was a Friday.
And so I was able to throw my headphones on, and everybody, you guys down in the studio, they have no idea what we're hearing and what's happening right now. Our meteorologists could see in the skies where it was going to go. I was hearing from their reporters and from their callers in the field what they were seeing with their own eyes, and I just remember a chill from my head to my toes because I turned and I looked at people in the newsroom and I took my headphones off and I was like, it just hit a nursing home or it just hit a business. We're all waiting for it to come, but I'm looking, almost I feel like I'm looking ahead in time, witnessing through our sister stations what it was doing there, and that is the thing that will stay with me. I remember hearing our meteorologist in Paducah give a stat. I can't remember exactly which stat it was, but I do remember pulling my headphones off again and going, tell Byron what he just said.
Well, that's they're small storms, but in the tornado, that would be a very large wedge.
When the information was delivered to Byron, He's like, that's not possible, because that would mean that this is even bigger.
Yeah.
And instead of losing steam, it was hanging on, if not growing, and that was not a good sign for us.
We can sometimes be hardened at what we deal with every day. It kind of comes with the territory. We need to be that way. It's a way to protect ourselves. But all of those defenses came down that night. We saw it in your eyes, in my eyes, and we saw it in Jeff and Byron's eyes. They knew what was coming. There was a tremendous loss of life and loss of property, but a lot of people say, those who made it through say, really made me a better person.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah, the scars are going to be here for a long, long time, but in the midst of the scars is going to be a rebuilding and a new life and a new community.
It's remarkable how much has changed in a year. It's also remarkable how much witness of the storm is still around here. But the things that I like to hear are all the rebuilding and the shouting between construction workers about handing them this or that. Because slowly but surely, this is the sign of recovery. This is a city in the middle of a rebirth. It's a beautiful thing to see.
That tornado took only seconds to flip the lives of thousands of our neighbors. Dawson Springs, Burlington, Bremen, devastating. 30 people killed. Our coverage a year ago included miraculous stories of survival and indescribable stories of heartache.
I know that in Dawson Springs, I know there's some injuries there, but I don't know to the extent of them either. There were 2 children in this Farnsley area that were missing, and they were actually found in a bathtub, not where the house was originally standing. From the door above, they're okay, and they don't appear to be hurt at all.
Hey, hang on. Here we go. Hang on. Hey, baby. Is she okay? He? That's both of them. That's both of them. Both of them are okay.
Praise God, Lord Jesus. Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Just get in the car with you. Get it dry, okay? Look here.
Here's the little one.
I told you to get him.
I felt the rumbling. I felt the shaking of the house. Next thing I knew, the tub had lifted, and it was out of my hands. I couldn't hold on. I just, oh my God.
The tub ripped out of the floor with the 2 babies inside. With the darkness from the tornado, Ludes feared they were gone.
I was looking everywhere to see where the tub may be. I had no clue at all where these babies was. All I could say is, Lord, please bring my babies back to me safely. Please, I beg thee.
Her entire house stripped down to the foundation. In the chaos,
I'm surprised that train was still
the tub hit her in the back of the head.
going through there.
Still, she went outside and searched for anyone who could help. And in her
Yeah,
yard,
the guy I met from
the
Boston
bathtub.
said that
Randy,
they had a train
everyone I've
there
talked
that
to
they
since
picked
the
it up
tornadoes
and
has
put
said
it
some version of how
way
they're
up on
sad
hill,
what they've lost, but they're
nowhere near the
grateful
train
for what they
tracks.
still have.
Yeah.
And this is true even for Greg Kuhn, who is dealing with having lost his 2-month-old daughter. Now what I'm going to show you here is what's left of Greg's mother-in-law's house, where he and his family went to weather the storm. They thought it would be safer since they live in a mobile home. They were secured in the bathroom, and they're still not sure if the house was dragged away or picked up and dropped nearby. After making sure their other 2 boys were okay, they noticed their daughter, Oaklyn, wasn't. She was life-flighted to Evansville and then to Louisville, where doctors told them if she lived, she would be brain dead. Greg and his wife decided together to remove life support. And it's not hard to see how much Greg loved her, and he thinks of her as exceptional.
She was an angel, man. She really was. She was the best baby. Like, no matter what kind of day I was having. I'm sorry. No matter what kind of day I was having, I could have the worst day ever, but as soon as I got home and I seen her, that was good.
Doug says he's doing his best to be strong for the rest of his family and give them a good Christmas. Despite all the pain that Doug and his family are dealing with right now, they made a point to say to me if they wanted to thank everyone they know who has been so kind and reached out to them and made sure that they were taken care of throughout all of this.
Are you still not going to eat here,
Robinson Miles, 14 News.
So one of the youngest storm victims was a 5-month-old boy. His name is Oglesby. His parents are still hospitalized. Here's Tara.
It's been another few days for the town of Bremen. The town mostly wiped out by a massive tornado. And for Andrew and Charity Oglesby, their home was no exception. Andrew and Charity and their 5-month-old Chase lived here. NBC reports little Chase rolled over for the first time in the last week.
Breaking news. This is 14 News.
We are breaking news at the hour with another update on the Western Kentucky tornado. And we begin tonight in Middleburg County, where we are learning a Kentucky judge was among the victims who died in severe weather. A Kentucky Supreme Court has confirmed District Judge Brian Crick's death, calling it a shocking loss to his family, community, and the court system.
There were people standing vigil over the house, and that's exactly what it was, because 72-year-old Marcia Hall died in that house, as did her sister, Carol Grisham. Billy West is Marcia Hall's son, and Billy is going to join us right now. Billy, just tell us about your mother and Friday night.
I received a text from my mom about 10:12 saying I love you, and that was the last communication I had with her. And I told my wife, I'm like, something just doesn't feel right. And we found it Saturday morning about probably 75 to 100 feet away from the home together. We all have a time and date whenever we leave the floor, and it was her time.
People ask me what it was like to go through it and what it sounded like, and I keep telling them words cannot explain. There's no words that would do it justice.
You try it. Just try and find words to describe the ruthless storm that killed people you know and love.
And they told us that their daughters, fiance, and their oldest kids
rushed to a neighbor's home across the street, and along with 20 other people, took shelter in the basement just as the storm moved into Bremen.
We're really lucky to live in a place like this where people are caring and willing to help each other out.
You see that one house standing there, and it reminds us of what our meteorologists also always tell us. Go to the center of your home, go to the lowest level to an interior room. You can see why. That top of that house, just almost gone. The bottom, though, just think about the center there. That might have been a safe place to be.
This is the Dawson Springs home of Gary and Judy Ashlock. The storm
You're not
picked
getting
their
up here.
home up and carried it several feet over, with them still inside.
My mom said that she had a text typed out to my wife, and she went to press send, and she said it started to get loud. I think it's here or something like that. And she went to press send, it couldn't get to go through, and the next thing she knew, the roof was gone. We count our blessings because we know that there are a lot of people in this area. Well, they don't have that. Oh my goodness, we used to ride. You know, we had this little bicycle gang of kids that literally like lived on the street, and we would ride Keegan and Hall and go up Oak Height. And, you know, having grown up here, knowing these streets like the back of my hand and seeing the destruction, that's what really got to you, because I couldn't pick out what street was what. My sister passed away 3 years ago, and you can't replace those photos. There's no new ones coming close to be replaced. You can replace dishes, but when you're replacing memories, you can't do that. So those, I mean, we're chucking things aside.
There was a lady on here yesterday.
It's a special place to me. I spent about 8 hours this morning trying to make sure my cousin, who's here, was okay along with her family, and I'm grateful, but I know the outcome is worse for so many other families.
The president walked through the wreckage that's defined the lives of the people of Dawson Springs for nearly a week.
I grew up here, but nothing looks, I can't tell where I am anywhere in this town right now.
The president met with survivors, had an up-close look, and made a promise to try to make things right.
And I intend to do whatever it takes, as long as it takes to support your state, your local leaders, and as you recover and rebuild, because you will recover and you will rebuild.
This is historic, so you want to make sure that you've got this marked down correctly, historically, because this is one that's going to go in the history books, that this, was catastrophic, the damage that was done here, but also it will now go in the history books as one of the strongest tornadoes to ever hit Kentucky, not just the longest.
We knew we had storm warnings, but who would have thought anything of this magnitude?
The night of the tornado, Ginny Watts planned to sleep over in her basement to celebrate her daughter's birthday. When her brother and nieces needed a place to go, they took refuge in her home together. And what she remembers most was the sound.
It just got kind of quiet, and then you could just hear the roar outside. The wind was, it was astonishing, just how loud it was. And then next thing we know, all the house starts ripping away. You could just hear it just pulling. I'm going to be honest, when I walked out of that basement, I was just thankful to be alive. There was a time in that basement I was just praying to God that he'd get us out of here.
When I got here to the tornado zone and I met the people who'd lost loved ones and I met the people who survived, I was so impressed about their appreciation for what truly matters in life. I was impressed by their resiliency, by their faith, by their determination to get beyond this and to grow beyond this and to build back. Truly salt of the earth people, truly. I'll never forget that.
So what's it like to forecast a storm, never knowing exactly what's going on under the radar?
Health coverage fans, this is the matchup we've all been waiting for.
We helped one another. We opened our homes, businesses, and
Here, which was
I like
probably
it.
somebody's front porch, probably somebody sitting right there. Hopefully they were not at the time. We're going to go right from where we believe the tornado is right there. You can see it. This is plain as day.
I remember when I saw the supercell move across into Kentucky.
This is a big one.
That's right on Dawson Springs.
You heart just sinks, and you just know, like, this is it. This is the big one. My very last call was to Rick Shanklin, and the first 3 words out of my mouth were, "Rick, I'm scared." I about lost it when we flew over Dawson Springs.
I don't have any more, that's it.
There are no words in the English language that truly encapsulate what I saw from the air.
I've seen tornado damage before, of course, but this is something of a different level.
Another level.
You can see the big nails there. The house probably was
Right.
where those nails are, and they're all going like that, so it must have been lifted up.
The wind is gonna, take the house at its weakest point. If there's any weak point in there, you compromise the structure.
Please, if you know people in Hopkins County, call them. Tell them to get into shelter now. We saw the picture, the wedge coming across I-55. Byron, my counterpart, he saw it.
That's large by any stretch there.
He, was thinking in the back of his mind, thinking, I hope that's an authentic picture, but then again, I hope it's not an authentic picture.
It's being backlit there, but that's a gigantic tornado.
It just changed at that moment. We're like, oh, this is really bad.
You looked at the radar and saw nothing impending it. It's here for the long haul. We just didn't know how far it was going to make it.
But the language and the tone that entire week leading up was different. It was much different. Even my boss said, you just look different on the air. We could tell something was going to happen.
The very first mention of the possibility for a severe weather event actually was in our area forecast discussion on Saturday, like the 4th. By probably Tuesday or Wednesday, we're like, okay, this is not good. One of the things that one of our lead forecasters did is he put out just text. There's no graphics for this post. We're just telling you straight from the office, this is what we think is going to happen. And I think people were like taken aback by that. We lost so many lives. We could have lost 5 times that, 10 times that, if it weren't for the work that the weather enterprise as a whole did, not only leading up to the event, but during the event.
We need to really, really, really emphasize here, this is the real...
The way that you guys broadcasted on air that night was nothing short of amazing.
So this is the time now to move.
And that saved lives.
Just ahead, we'll see the forever altered city through the eyes of a Dawson Springs native.
She was the youngest victim of the tornado. Now her family invites us in to share how they are remembering her spirit.
Since 2016,
12 in Dawson.
Now, the Coons want to share with us how the family is celebrating her life.
Oakland Coon was born in September of 2021. After having 2 boys, she was the first daughter for Doug and Jackie Coon.
I always say now she was already an angel born of how perfect she was.
The tornado destroyed Jackie's mother's home where the family took refuge. Oakland later died from the injuries she sustained that night. She was only 2 months old.
We are not the same people as we was the night of December 10th.
In the wake of the destruction, they didn't have much time to process their feelings. Their 2 boys needed their comfort. Jackie's mom needed a place to stay, and they still had bills to pay. Now they're a year removed from what happened, but their feelings are still raw.
It's been so long, but it really hasn't been in my mind and in my heart. You know, like my daughter is still gone, and it feels like she was just here yesterday.
Doug and Jackie watched as Dawson Springs started to put itself back together. Jackie's mom's home is now rebuilt, but that's bittersweet for them.
The more people get back from the tornado that lost material things, the more I feel more robbed of my daughter.
The hospital gave us this.
Doug and Jackie's bedroom is filled with keepsakes and reminders of their little girl, all donated by friends and strangers. They say people all over the country and around the world requested their mailing address and sent tributes to honor Oakland. Jackie says she struggled to face reminders of who she was, but she's coming to embrace them.
I'm getting to a point where I can look at her face and smile now. You don't know that to me.
They're finding ways to move forward as a family. Jackie has a TikTok account with almost 300,000 followers, which she uses to connect with other bereaved parents. She also went back to school and is studying agriculture. They say they've been overwhelmed by the kindness people have shown them. A GoFundMe campaign meant they could address a range of needs of their family, including installing a storm shelter.
It's crazy how much we're loved and we're backed up and how many people support and love the family.
Christmas is a bittersweet time for their family. Last year, Oakland's funeral had been just days before, but the festivities meant a lot to their boys who needed a smile. This year, their tree is pink to remind them of the 5th member of their family. Robinson Miles, 14 News.
Imagine this. Your town is destroyed by a tornado.
What are your thoughts as you drive up and down once familiar streets? Steve Mailing has Tabitha's story.
To Gothonians, this is a very special place.
What are you seeing kind of that's different for you?
Our whole town is a construction zone right now. You didn't have the clear vantage point across town that you do now. Look at that sign, battered and torn and beaten, but it's still standing.
Can you kind of walk me through what that thought was, just seeing everything that had happened?
Dear God, right after it happened, we were busy. You were busy helping, volunteering. You were somewhere in town doing something. We didn't have time to stop and be sad.
When you still see these pieces of what was left behind, does it kind of take you back to that moment?
Well, for piles of destruction like that, I think at this point we're all just ready to see it go. And that way somebody can build something new and promising. I'm very shocked that we don't have more structures in town that are just left frozen in time. It's gonna take a while to repair our landscape. You know, we can put up new homes and new structures, but the scars of the landscaping are gonna be around for years. You know, we lost those 19, but the rest of us survived, and you know, we've made it a year. And it's probably been one of the hardest years of our lives here in Dawson Springs.
A neighbor, a basement, and a short prayer. Jordan Yaney with the story of the Black family.
It was their first home. Their own home. It's also where Dawson Springs' Anita and Greg Black anxiously watched the forecast in the days leading up to a catastrophic tornado. A family home, but without a basement. Anita had to flee to join Lori Blaylock in her home.
Just come to the house. We've got plenty of room down here.
Dawson Springs, you've got to be locked down right now.
They watched the storm draw closer, and when the meteorologist made it clear it was time, 4 people and 2 dogs rushed to the basement, crying, praying, and waiting.
It seems so fast, but then yet so long when you think about just everything sort of went into slow motion.
Every time a piece of debris would hit you, you would question, is that going to be the one that kills me? Is that going to be the one that ends this?
As the winds calmed, they left their shelter, not knowing what they'd find.
We found screens and our neighbors' houses collapsed on top of them.
Houses destroyed, neighbors lost. Everything that made the neighborhood a home, gone for Black and her family. In the process of rebuilding their home, the Blacks decided to include this storm shelter in the event another tornado comes through, like the one that happened 1 year ago.
When it thunders, I come downstairs. You know, I'm still at that point, and I'm scared.
Black and her family knew they needed to rebuild, but didn't qualify for FEMA aid. Black says this is where she belongs. Greg and Anita emptied out their retirement to get back the only home they've ever known.
Because this is home. The boom or bust, we had to come back.
He was the face of the government following the tornado. I walked the path Judge Executive Jack Whitfield took with the president. That conversation next.
Health coverage fans, this is the
The family now are gathering to remember the loved ones that they lost.
It was devastating.
Across the hills of Dawson Springs, homes full of memories once stood, but now only empty lots remain.
I knew we were going to have one, but I mean, I did not realize it was going to be like a monster of one. I think even the animals sensed there was something on the way.
Oh, look at that wedge. That's a beautiful tornado.
Dawson Springs, his next call, Aunt Kay.
James.
She answers, telling family she hears sirens in the distance.
And she said, I hear a train. There's no train in Dawson Springs. And then she lost connection.
The storm took beloved Aunt Kay.
The garage was gone. It's just like you took a dozer and just cleared the ground.
And the family home that was covered in memories.
Aunt Kay, she was the rock, the glue that brought the family together. She loved the Lord. She loved working in her yard doing flowers. If you needed her, she'd be there for you. Now, she left a legacy. Life is fragile. Handle with prayer. Wow. Very, very true.
When the storm got close to Dawson Springs, the superintendent went to school.
And find out how schools in the path of the tornado changed protocol to help protect children from trauma.
Life is an uphill battle.
Shelter and clothing.
Here's Byron Douglas.
I don't know the name of it, but I don't know.
This was really ground zero. I mean, we had folks coming in through these doors right here.
How many people did come to the school right after the tornado?
It was significant. It was significant. Our library's right here, and this is where we started a triage center within 15, 20 minutes of the tornado and had folks streaming in here, some of them pretty badly injured. We had nurses in here from around town who just happened to come up wanting to help, and literally these couches and things that you see in here, they were used to help treat folks. We did it right here for the first 4 or 5 hours. There's the remnants of us needing to bust in here the night of the tornado. I didn't have my keys on me that I needed. Took them across. We've got clothing and shoes and stuff. I kicked that door in myself so that I could take families in there, and I showed them the area where it was. And I told them, get what they needed. We had folks going through that, throughout the night, just because all they had was the clothes on their back. And some of them didn't even have clothes on their back.
How's everybody doing today, 1 year later?
Well, in all honesty, it's much better than I expected. We lost 19 people here, but we didn't lose one student. It's amazing.
Southside Elementary School in Hopkins County works with students and their behavior to ease their trauma.
Southside Elementary may be about 15 minutes away from the destruction that happened in Dawson Springs, But that doesn't mean they were exempt from the powerful storm's effects. Staff at the school say some students dealt with loss, creating anxiety in the days and weeks that followed the tornado. In the year that's passed, the staff has upped their training to watch out for their students. Plus, they've adjusted when they do tornado drills, opting to not schedule drills around bad weather forecasts.
We were very adamant about talking to our students, hey, we're going to have a drill, so they knew that it was a drill. We were very proactive to build relationships with parents who had students that were experiencing trauma so that we could be on the same page with them.
All changes to help ease uneasy feelings at Southside Elementary.
Coping with loss can take many forms. One man turned to his piano for comfort. We'll update his story next. Post-storm silence filled with music, bringing harmony to one man with every note.
I grew up with my grandfather promoting gospel music. That put a love of the music of the church in my heart.
Jordan Bay started playing music more than 25 years ago. He says it started as something fun to do at church.
Is it piano at church or is it house?
Playing gospel music is something he relies on.
The music grounds me and brings me back to home base. We have wild days, hectic days, and it always seems to bring peace and comfort.
Bay says gospel music feels like home. On December 10th, 2021, gospel music felt like home when the tornado took his away.
We were on our hands and knees in the basement floor. I had a king-size mattress down there, just a spare. We had it pulled over our heads, as we were kneeling down, trying to shield ourselves. Kiddos were there. You could hear the house ripping apart, the wood splintering. I'll never forget that moment. This is Max's room.
In that moment, protecting his children was the only thing that mattered.
Yikes, I guess it's safe in here. We had every right to be afraid, but really I never was.
Bay says his faith was his comfort that night and in the days of recovery ahead.
It was the next day. We had went back to try to salvage some things. My piano was still sitting in the corner. I'd been playing a song that was in my head for some time, for several days. There's something about that name, and there's a line in that, kings and kingdoms will all pass away. So I sat down to play, and that lyric kind of hit me in a new way.
In a time of chaos, Bay's turned to the thing that feels like home. That private moment caught on
Got books on the shelves, didn't you think of?
a video that quickly
How
found its
weird.
way around the world, resonating with people facing their own personal storms.
I think it, for whatever reason, that moment really spoke to a lot of hearts, brought a peace and perspective in the midst of difficult times.
The comfort that Bays feels when his hands glide across the keys of the piano, finding its way into the lives of millions. A broken house is all that's left on the family property. Bays says his family is okay because to him, a home is more than a place with a roof and four walls.
The house is gone. We've not spent a night here in almost a year. But it's still home. Just like this community is our home, it looks different and it will never look the same. But it's still home.
Since 2016.
Guys, I cannot specify enough. Sorry for the background noise. But whenever any weather station says get into a shelter, because there's a major storm coming, get into that shelter. Because you're more than likely going to get injured or possibly die. So it doesn't matter whatever storm channel or weather channel it is. Doesn't matter if it's 14 News, CNN, or not CNN, 44 News, doesn't matter. Get into the shelter. James, the Storm Chaser, out.